Okay, so this is what happens to all the countries after the Great War, aka World War One. If you saw the previous video, which was about World War One, then you probably already knew this. If you don't know a thing about World War One, check out my previous video or one of the much better and probably much more in-depth videos about World War One. Anyway, so what happens after all this? Well, I think I went over it a little bit. The Central Powers, as they were called, Germany, the Austro-Hungarian Empire, and the Ottoman Empire, are all split up. The Ottoman Empire becomes what we in the modern day call the Middle East. The Austro-Hungarian Empire splits into actually 4 separate countries. It's Yugoslavia, Czechoslovakia, and as the name implies, Austria and Hungary. 4. I'm sorry, I can't do that with my ring finger. I just can't do it. I don't know why. Anyway, so that's what happens to them. But what happens elsewhere? Like, particularly, what are all the bad things going on in Germany? Well, let's first analyze the word Reich. The word Reich is German for empire. The First Reich was the Holy Roman Empire, which lasted from the 10th century to 1806, and collapsed due to faulty leadership and infighting. The Second Reich, known as the Empire of the Kaisers, formed in 1806, and then fell due to World War I. After the destruction of the Second Reich, the German people became known as, the government of Germany became known as the Weimar Republic. And Weimar was, I don't mean to insult anyone. I'm sorry if you are insulted, but here's what it is. Weimar was crap. It was a terrible republic. And this happened to not just Germany, but to also the U.S. and a number of other capitalist countries. And all this happened in those countries. Germany was demilitarized. Germany was forbidden from having a military larger than 100 soldiers. Yeah, you could only have 100 soldiers. How stupid is that? There's that, and then of course we have what happened to all the other countries along with Germany. The economy plummeted, crime rates were higher than they had ever been previously, the police had little to no power, her alcohol was going down, there were riots in the streets. Yeah, that happened in a lot of countries, including the U.S. So, and Germany. And of course, among other countries, it also happened to Italy and Japan. Meanwhile, in the ever-glorious Soviet Union, Lenin, the first leader of the Soviet Union, dies of a stroke in 1923. He is temporarily replaced by a man named Trotsky, until Trotsky's neck is snapped by one Joseph Stalin, who seizes power and threatens to permanently disband the Soviet military if they don't let him lead. Yeah. So Joseph Stalin becomes the new dictator of the Soviet Union. And he forbids elections, but the only good thing he does, he industrializes Russia. Yeah, he brings industry to the place, and a lot more money. And of course, Britain holds an election. They get a new prime minister, Winston Churchill. And the Italians and the Japanese, their monarchs give them dictators. Yeah, dictators. The dictator of Italy is Italian Prime Minister Benito Mussolini. And the Japanese dictator, chosen by Emperor Hirohito, the Japanese dictator is a former general, Prime Minister Hideki Tojo. And then, in America, we have our own election, and elect our 32nd president, our most successful Democratic president, the only president to have been in a wheelchair. Excuse me, but most importantly, the only one to have more than 2 terms, having a total of 4. Franklin Delano Roosevelt. And in Germany, in 1928, the German presidential election is held. And it comes down to 2 parties. the Social Democratic Party of Germany, aka just the German Democrats, if you prefer, or the Social Democrats, if you prefer that, and the National Socialist German Workers' Party, aka the Nazi Party. And they have two candidates. For the Social Democrats, Paul von Hindenburg. And for the Nazis, Adolf Hitler. And Hindenburg wins. What does Hindenburg look like? Well, he was he was a little overweight, had a big long beard. How long of a beard? A lot of you are going to hate me for this, but think Phil from Duck Dynasty. Think the length of his beard. Except on a German man. Overweight German man. Yeah, so then, of course, Hindenburg wins, but he decides, my opinion should get a second chance. So he gives Hitler the position of Chancellor, which is the German equivalent to Vice President. And in 1932, the Reichstag, a building which keeps all human rights for certain groups intact. The building burns down, allowing Hitler to do whatever he wants to these said groups. And in 1933, Hindenburg dies. And Hitler becomes the head of the German people. And thus begins the most cruel and evil dictatorship the world has ever seen, to be talked about in the next video.